Hi everyone, and welcome to video number 4 on the Weimar Republic and the Nazi Party in Germany. And this video, ladies and gentlemen, it's all about the early challenges to the authority of the Weimar government in Germany. Now, if you remember from the previous video, Germany was an unhappy and divided country. The Treaty of Versailles had led to huge dissatisfaction and anger, feeling of humiliation, and people in Germany were not happy with the government, with the Weimar government. And what we're going to look at in this video are two of the first big challenges to the authority of the Weimar government. Now, I said it was divided. On the one side, you get the left wing, the communist people. Now, they had an idea that Germany should be controlled by the people. They were against capitalism, the idea of abolishing private ownership of businesses and land. They were communist, and they were taking their lead from the recent communist revolution in Russia, 1917. So that's on the one side. On the other side, you've got the right wing. Now, they were a group of people who supported capitalism, but they wanted to go back to the old system, one strong ruler, maybe the return of the Kaiser. And they thought, right, let's put country. They were nationalistic, the idea of Germany above the people. So you've got two different sides here. And in the middle were the moderates, or the centre, led by Ebert. The Social Democrats were in the middle. And they were being attacked from both sides. January 1978, I was only 17 years old, and one of my favourite bands at the time, Magazine, and they had a great song called Shot by Both Sides. And that was Ebert at this time. He was under attack from both sides in Germany, the left wing and the right wing. Now, the first attack, the first threat to his power, came from the left, January 1919, and it was known as the Spartacist Revolt. Spartacist, there's a name. Now, let me get my hat out, my Russian hat. It's very cold today. Brrr. Can you see the symbol of the Russians there, the communists, the hammer and the sickle? This was a left-wing uprising, the German Communist Party, financed by the Russians, supported by the communists from Russia. And they were quite well financed. They had money. They had 33 newspapers, 400,000 members. The Spartacist League. Now, the Spartacist League were named after a man called Spartacus. Now, he had been a Roman gladiator, a Roman slave. And in 73 BC, Spartacus led a revolt against the Romans, and he was very successful. He led an army, and they defeated some of the Roman top soldiers in battles. In the end, of course, he was defeated. Spartacus, a great film. Go and catch it and watch it. Very, very good film, worth watching. Spartacus, the idea of equality, overthrowing the rulers. And that's how they got their name, the Spartacists, because of this idea from the past, overthrowing the power. So, the Spartacists had two main leaders, a man called Karl Liebknecht and a woman called Rosa Luxemburg, nicknamed Red Rosa. Now, how did their revolt start? 4th of January 1919, right at the start of the year. Ebert, the leader, sacked the Berlin police chief, a man called Eichhorn. Now, Eichhorn had done a job which meant that he was very popular with the workers. Now, the workers might be the communists. So he has been sacked. The workers are not happy with this decision. They go onto the streets of Berlin to protest. 5th of January. 6th of January, the Spartacist leaders, Luxemburg and Liebknecht, see a chance. Why don't we move against the Weimar government overthrow them and put a communist government in charge of Germany in exactly the same way that a communist government was in charge of Russia. That was their idea. And they mobilized and they got 100,000 people on the Berlin streets, taking control of buildings, government newspapers, telegraph office. They are trying to take control. Now, what could Ebert do about that? Well, the police force, are they going to help him? He's just sacked the police chief. He turns to the army. But the German army was struggling after World War I. Would the German army support Ebert? Remember, the German army didn't like what has happened over the Treaty of Versailles. But Ebert asks army officers to organise returning World War I soldiers. Many of them still had their guns. And he said, right, why don't you organise them? They're not proper army, they're not the official army. Why don't you organise them into free corps or free units? And that gave them their name, because they're known in German as the Freikorps. F-R-E-I-K-O-R-P-S, the Freikorps. And there were a lot of them, maybe 200,000. Now, 13th of January, the Spartacists are still on the streets, but they are largely disorganised and unarmed. They would be easily defeated and beaten by the Freikorps, who've got their weapons and had military training. So the Freikorps defeat the Spartacist revolt. The right wing defeats the left wing. The Spartacist revolt was crushed. 100 people were killed. The uprising was over. 16th of March, Luxembourg and Liebknecht were killed. They had no leaders. So I suppose you could say the left had left. Terrible joke. Sorry about that. A few months later, March 1919, another left-wing uprising. And this time also it was crushed, 1,000 killed. Down in Munich, in April 1919, another uprising, also crushed. The left wing, by 1919, had tried to take power, but had failed. Ebert was still in charge. Challenge number 1, over. So that's the left wing. Let's get rid of that. Now, remember what I said though. Ebert was under attack from both sides, shot by both sides. Well, the left have tried and failed. What about the right wing? Well, we come to the second challenge to Ebert's authority, and it's known as the Kapp Putsch. The Kapp Putsch, 1920, a right-wing challenge. Did somebody say cap? Way! Oh, not that sort of cap, you fool. Oh, sorry. That's a bridge too far. Sorry. I apologise. The Kapp Putsch. Now, what's this all about? Well, remember, Ebert now knows that the left wing are not a threat anymore. So, he says to the right wing, the Freikorps, well, thanks very much for your help. Thanks for helping me to defeat the left, but we don't want you now, we don't need you, so we need to reduce the size of the army and we need to disband and get rid of the Freikorps. Well, how would they take that? What do you think? Not very well. The Berlin Freikorps leader, a man called Erhard, he thinks, oh, well, no, we don't need to be disbanded. We don't want to be disbanded. We are here. We've got our own ideas for how Germany should be organised. And he joined, Erhard and the Berlin Freikorps joined with a right-wing politician, a man called Wolfgang Kapp, K-A-P-P. And it led to the Kapp Putsch. Putsch is a German word, P-U-T-S-C-H, and it means like a rebellion or a revolt or an uprising. So the Kapp Putsch is the right-wing challenge to the leadership and authority of Ebert. Now, what's this one all about? The Freikorps, and Kapp get together and they say, right, we've got a plan. We will overthrow the Weimar government and we will replace Ebert with a right-wing government and maybe bring back the Kaiser, certainly put Kapp in charge as Chancellor. What Kapp is doing here is he's tapping in to German anger, the feeling of humiliation at the Treaty of Versailles, the stab in the back. And he's also very cleverly tapping into the fear of communists. Remember the previous year, the communists had tried to take over. So Kapp is saying, look, Ebert is weak. Put me in charge and we'll be strong and we'll return Germany to its old ways. That's what he's trying to do. Now, what can Ebert do? The left wing won't help him. He's just defeated them. What can he do? He turns to the army. Now then, he asks the army leader, a man called von Seeckt, and said, look, will you help me put down this revolt, this putsch, this uprising, this challenge to my power? And the leader of the army, von Seeckt, he refused. In a memorable phrase, he said, Reichswehr, that's the German army, the German soldiers, Reichswehr, don't fire upon Reichswehr. In other words, he's saying to Ebert, look, we're German soldiers. The Freikorps were German soldiers. They fought with us in the trenches a couple of years ago in World War I. We're not going to fight against them. Well, this is a problem for Ebert, ladies and gentlemen. What can he do? He's not strong enough. What would you do? Have a think. What can he do? Well, he does something that's quite surprising. He runs away. Yeah. He flees. First of all, he goes to Dresden and later to Stuttgart. There's a but. But before he runs away, he turns to the German people, the German workers. Remember, some of them might be left-wing and might not like Kapp and this right-wing putsch. And he says to the German workers, help us. And the way to help is to go on strike. Because if you strike, all those important things that are needed for life to continue, gas, electricity, water, transport, they will not function. And if they're not there and they don't function, the German society can't function. So that's what happened. In a way, it was a gamble, but it was a clever move by Ebert. The German people went on strike. Kapp realized, actually, he did not have enough support amongst the people. And the putsch collapsed. It was over, and Ebert returned. I suppose you could say the Kapp Putsch was kaputt. Sorry. But Germany had been challenged by the right wing. I suppose you could say it was in a right old mess. Goodness me, terrible jokes today. But Ebert had returned. He'd been shot by both sides. The left wing, Spartacist uprising, the right wing, the Kapp Putsch. He had survived. But was he strengthened? Have a think. Problems still continued. A man called Erzberger, I've mentioned him before in some of the other videos. He was the man who actually signed the armistice ending World War I in a train carriage in France. He was assassinated in August 1921. A man called Rathenau, Ebert's foreign minister, quite high up in the government. He was assassinated in June 1922. He was machine gunned by the Freikorps. Now, as a little aside for what's going to come later, Rathenau was a Jew. Feelings of anti-Semitism may be coming up there, feelings of turning against the Jews. But political violence was still a huge problem. The top people are being assassinated. Ebert is in power. He's in charge, but has he got the power to rule effectively? Probably not. There were loads and loads of political parties, remember, some on the left, some on the right. Political violence was happening on the streets. Marches, uprising, fighting, violence was everywhere. Politicians, they saw that people were being assassinated. They hired ex-soldiers for protection. There was a group called the Steel Helmets who went round protecting the right wing, the DNVP party. And the left wing also had their group of soldiers protecting them. Germany was in a bit of a mess. Ebert has survived, but what is going to come next? We've seen 1919, 1920, Spartacists, Kapp Putsch. We've seen 21 and 22, more riots, more assassinations. We get to the year 1923. Ebert is still standing, just. What's going to happen in the key year of 1923? To use the words from a very old song, there may be trouble ahead. Would there be trouble in 1923? Well, ladies and gentlemen, the only way to find out is to watch the next video. So this video we've looked at the early challenges. Spartacist, left wing, Kapp Putsch, right wing. What other challenges are going to emerge for Friedrich Ebert to deal with? Check the next video, coming soon. As ever, I hope it's been useful to you. All the best now. Speak to you soon. Bye now.